So Robert De Niro went on Real Time with Bill Maher, and man, he goes inski on Trump. This is really something. Let's watch, and then we'll break it down.
So why is Trump winning? I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48-43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latinos. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016. Where we couldn't believe that it happened. The guy is a total monster. And anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I'd never play him as an actor, because I can't see any good in him. Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing redeemable in him. And we have to, and whoever the people are who want to vote for him, and they look like intelligent people around there. For some reason, it can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power, and he still hasn't.
No.
He still hasn't. He just admitted he lost the last election, and he advertises that he will go on. He says he's been cheated out of one term, so maybe we should get rid of a president only gets 2 terms thing. So
he's a sociopathic, psychopathic, malignant narcissist. He is a dangerous person, and we have to people realize, a lot of people, this audience, but the people who somehow think he's going to be the answer to their prayers, whatever those are.
I wish that guys like this understood why it is that Biden is down to Trump, and then they could scream from the rooftops what Biden has to do in order to change to defeat Trump. Right? And obviously it doesn't have to be Biden. I wish it wasn't Biden. I wish it was somebody else. But look, everything he says there is totally true. It's true. So why is Biden down so much? And right now, look, the answer is, on the one hand, it's something as simple as he looks really freaking old. Now, in the State of the Union the other night, he assuaged some fears for some people, because he was able to mostly hold it together for the entire State of the Union speech, and they had him on the good stuff, which had him relatively coherent. So that's one thing. I think another reason he's hurting so much is that all the social safety net expansions went away at the end of the pandemic, and so that made his poll numbers dip a little bit. And of course, Gaza, arming and funding and backing a genocide. That's going to hurt you with a lot of key demographics. Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, young Americans. As Maher pointed out, he's dropped among Hispanics. He's dropped among even black voters. He was 90-some-odd% support. Now he's at 66% support. So if everything they say here about Trump is true, which it is, I mean, anybody who's running against Trump should be 10 points up on him, 15 points up on him. And Biden's down on an average about 2 points. And I wish they cared as much about correcting the direction of the Democrats so that we can make sure we defeat this monster. You understand what I'm saying? And, that part of the conversation is obviously missing here. But look, on their Trump point, I think it's true. And the reason why the people who still support him, the reason why they support him, I really think it boils down to Trump hates the same people that they hate. And Trump is hated by the same people that they think hate them, right? That sneering liberal elitism. Basically, their whole worldview and their whole politics comes down to, how can I trigger the libs? How can I piss off the libs? How can I make my enemies more insane by the day? And, outside of that, it's very obvious to point out that what remains of Trump's support is incredibly cultish. What remains of Trump's support, I mean, you go talk to the people at his rallies, and we've seen video after video coming out of his rallies, and these people can't name a single policy that Trump has done. They don't know what he plans on doing in the second term. It's all vague stuff. It's all, hey, we think he's taking on the deep state, even though he largely served the deep state in his first term in office. And, that's a shame, man. But, Robert De Niro's breakdown here, it's sort of the classic standard resistance liberal breakdown of Trump. Like, they focus more on characteristics and qualities than they do on, like, what he's actually done policy-wise. But to be fair, I think he's correct. I think De Niro's correct on the massive character flaws and the inability for this guy to ever admit a mistake, the inability to ever take an L, no matter how obvious it is that he did take an L, like the 2020 election. Just genuinely disturbing personal characteristics that if it was on anybody else, everybody would see through it clearly. But for some reason, this guy, for a certain percentage of the population, has got a halo around his head where they think he could do no wrong. But understand that the policy record and the actions actually back up the character description here from Robert De Niro, right? We don't need to go through all of it, but charged with 91 felonies, charged with defrauding the United States with fake electors and trying to steal the election. Says he wants to suspend the Constitution if he wins again. He's talked about that openly. He tweeted about that. The Constitution shouldn't apply because I feel like I was cheated out of the last election. So you got to throw out all the rules, all the regulations. Imagine any other Republican in history said we should suspend the Constitution, how other Republicans would react. We know how they'd react. They'd kick that guy to the curb immediately. On the policy front, Trump destroyed the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was the watchdog for regular people when they got robbed by banks or credit card companies. Killed the regulation and court cases into the predatory payday loan industry, siding with them because they gave him $1 million for his inauguration. Cut taxes for the rich. Everybody remembers 83% of the tax cuts in that bill went to the top 1% over the long run. This isn't like good for regular people. It is good for the plutocrats and the oligarchs and the billionaires. He increased drone strikes over 400%, kept us in Iraq and Afghanistan, even though he said he'd get us out. Assassinated a top Iranian commander who was on the ground fighting ISIS, General Soleimani. We all remember that. That nearly sparked a much, much wider war. They tried to coup Venezuela. They ripped up the Iran agreement. They ripped up the Paris Climate Accord. Now Trump's saying he wants to do a war with Mexico. He wants to designate the drug cartels as terrorist organizations so he can go in there and start bombing them, even though our ally, the Mexican government, says don't do that. You want to piss off one of our top allies in that brazen of a way and start a brand new war? Trump armed Saudi Arabia as they did a genocide in Yemen. He did the Abraham Accords and moved the embassy to Jerusalem, which helped lead to October 7th and what we're witnessing now. He's already saying Israel should finish the job and go further and keep doing the genocide. This time, in his campaign, Trump has said, I want to ban socialists and communists from coming into the country. He wants to do ideological thought crimes for people who come in the country. He wants to expand the Muslim ban. The list goes on and on. He outsourced 200,000 jobs. So the policy stuff backs up the character analysis from Robert De Niro. And I think it's true. People need to realize, I think a second term, all the brakes are off the car. Because here's why. Trump did a lot of horrible things in the first term. Horrible things. But the fact of the matter is he had some people who were establishment Republicans who, when Trump would do an egregious overstep, they would step in and say, we're not doing that. Like, for example, when Trump tried to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy the U.S. military in our streets to deal with the George Floyd riots and protests. And they were like, we're just not going to deploy the U.S. military to go after our own people. That's not happening. That's flat out authoritarianism. And so they reeled him in. They reeled him in when he was trying to basically steal the 2020 election and seize the voting machines and declare martial law. He needed people like Bill Barr and others to be like, we're not doing that. This time he's going to pack the administration with loyalists. Complete loyalists. So whatever he says goes. If you don't have any check on this guy, think of the damage he could do. As bad as it was the first term, it could be way worse the second term, right? And I know Robert De Niro is kind of normie-pilled, sounds like a standard resistance liberal. That doesn't mean he's wrong. That doesn't mean he's wrong. In fact, I think almost everything he said there is right. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.